Well, like you just heard, I have two girls, 8, well, she's almost 8, which is a big deal if you're 7 and you're almost 8, and 10. And right now, we are in this phase where all we ever listen to in my minivan is kid songs. They're in the Christmas musical here at Compass, and they take their job very seriously. They are memorizing all the kids' songs. And I don't know about you, but be it whatever kid song it is, it doesn't even matter. After about, the 50th time, you're ready to just, your brains are going to shoot out your nose. You're just done. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So that if there's ever a time I'm in my van alone, I love the radio. I don't even care what station. I don't care. I just know that as soon as I turn it on, it's not going to be a kid song, and it's going to be great. So the other day I was driving home from church, and the radio is on so loud. And then this commercial comes on. And it was interesting because it was this sweet lady's voice, and she was talking about raising kids. Normally, if a commercial comes on, I go to find another station, but this one kind of grabbed me. I'm like, all right, let's hear what she has to say. And she was just, super sweet. And I forget how she worded it exactly, but just talking about how kids, toddlers have big emotions. And as parents, when your child or toddler, has a fit or whatever, it's okay. Just don't get onto them or try to stop it. Just let it be. And she used this phrase, which I thought was so funny. Just let them roar. You can fix it later when they get older. And at first, I'm driving by myself in my van thinking, all right, I see what she's saying, but really, is that true? Like in real life, is that actually true? Is it okay to just, let your kid do whatever they want, act however they want, let their emotions out however they want, and then you could fix it later when they're older? Is that true? I'm thinking in my head, okay, real life, when my kid wants to touch something hot in the kitchen and they feel passionately about it, and they want to touch it, do I just say, okay, go ahead, you feel strongly, you must want to do it? No, I don't care if they feel strongly about doing it. I don't want them to get hurt. Or if they want a toy in Target and they want you to let them hold it, buy it, take it home, and you say no. And so they proceed very, orderly to lay down on the floor and arch their back and scream until you do it. Is that what you're going to do? Is just be like, oh, don't mind her. She's having some big feelings about Barbie. No, you're going to tell her, that's not going to work. It is not going to work. And ultimately, I think deep down we know that even though our kids have big feelings and they have this big capacity to show their emotions, they also have a big capacity for direction, don't they? Of course their feelings are real. When they want fruit snacks for dinner and you say no and they start crying, those are genuine, passionate tears. Of course that's real. Or when you say, hey, it's time to get in the van, and they say, no, it's time for me to play. No, those emotions are real, of course. But those emotions being genuine and real and heartfelt doesn't mean that validates somehow that the behavior they want to do is totally fine. We know that they are able to understand what is good and right. They know right and wrong, even in little ways, and we see that. If your kids are anything like mine, if you say, don't touch that, and they say, okay, and then do this, they totally understand what you're saying. They get the whole wrong and right thing, even in little ways. And as moms, I think we have to assume that it's not our job just to keep our kids alive, and then one day when they're in elementary school, when they're old enough to sit and reason with us about their behavior, we can try to fix all the things that have been done wrongly. That's not actually the case. And we know that because we know they understand, and we know that they're able to grasp certain things, maybe not everything. And we want them to grow in character, don't we? We want them to become people, children, even adults who have good, strong character, who know what to do, what is right. And I think sometimes this helps me. I don't know if you're like this, but when I'm thinking about when I try to get to my number one priority as a mom, or just to see the big picture, sometimes what helps me is to actually take my eyes off of the right here and right now and think 20 years from now, down the line. In 20 years, what do I want to be true of my children? In 20 years, if I had to say it in a sentence, in a word, what do I want to be true of my daughters? And for me, it always comes back to, I want their character to be strong. I want them to be known for having good character. I think it's a universal truth, isn't it, that even children are known by their behavior, whether they do what's good and right. We know that they're capable of that, and it's our job to instill that in them, even when they are very young. Let's write it this way for our first points. moms, we need to establish the importance of character. Establish the importance of character. My girls have been playing with Legos lately, which is sweet. We have a family in our church gift them this massive box of have you seen the Friends Legos that are pink and blue and they're super cute? Well, my girls love them and they've been playing with them and they make little villages and houses and creatures. I don't know what they make. And inevitably, every time they play with Legos, there comes a point when something that they have worked so hard to create and build falls over. So my husband and I keep telling them all the time, remember, build a strong base, make sure you got the supports. You know, we don't want to see the tears when your Lego giraffe falls over. We want them to get that because as silly as it might sound, even a Lego house has to have a good foundation. That same concept is true in our parenting. We are working so hard to build and create and form this character development in our kids. We've got to be careful that we make sure that is the base. That's the base of everything. This is what we're trying to build. And all of their everyday life, their activities, the things that they do, the way they talk, how they act, all of that will build on this base of character. We've got to start there. Character, by definition, is the mental and moral qualities that define someone's integrity. The mental and moral qualities that define someone's character, integrity. Right away, we see that it's character that shows us how to act, whether our behavior is good and right. As moms, we all want our kids to be successful one day. Of course we do. I think we all have maybe individual things that we want for our kids. We want them to go to college or have a job or get married or be moms themselves, whatever it looks like. I think we all have some sort of picture of what we want them to become. You know, maybe we want them to play sports or be good at reading or whatever it is. But ultimately, all of those things are secondary to the number one, which is good character. They can do all those things, become successful, make good money, whatever it is, but devoid of character, they won't be able to do it well. As moms, we should really, really, really emphasize the importance of character with our kids, practically, every day. But how do we do that? We've got little ones, 2, 3 years old. How do we practically teach our kids that character is important? I think we have to talk about it all the time. We've got to use our words to say it. We've got to tell them all the time how important it is to do what is good, to do what is right, and then to affirm them every time we see them do something that is good. When they clean up like you tell them to, clap for them, hug them, affirm them. Make doing the right thing a good thing that gets rewarded in your home. Help them hear it all the time from your own mouth. This is important. What we do and how we act, doing what's right, it matters. It's important. And that means that we have to be very clear with them about what we expect from them. That means that we have to have clear rules and boundaries for them. It shouldn't be a mystery to our kids that if they, shove their brother down or throw a fit to get what they want in the store, that's not going to fly with you because they understand your rules. They know the boundaries and they thrive when they know how to please you and how to do what is right and best. It shouldn't be a mystery to them about what is good or bad because you're so clear. And not only are you clear with your words, possibly the best thing you can do, the best way to show them how to have good character is to model it. Model it. Be the model of good character for your kids. Let them see in your life, in your behavior, your words, that you love to do what is good and what is right. A couple of years ago, my friend was telling me she was watching her son play in the living room with his Hot Wheels, and it was like this little idyllic moment. He had his cars, and then he crashed them together really loud and yelled, "Idiot!" And we all started laughing because we knew exactly where he got that from. His mom, just a couple days before, said someone cut her off, and she honked and yelled, "Idiot!" Never dreaming that her son would copy that. And, I think as moms, can we not all resonate with that moment? I have so many stories like that of my own daughters emulating me, and I'm like, oh, no. And they usually wait until other people are around. That's for my girls, at least. But that just sets in my mind, how true is that? They're watching us all the time. They're watching everything we do, all the good things and all the bad things, unfortunately. And just think about what kind of tool that is, actually. If you think about it in a positive way, That is quite the tool in your tool belt as a mom. Your example can do wonders as you're teaching your kids what good character is. Because think of it in the reverse. What if somebody cuts you off and instead of, yelling idiot, which they may or may not, deserve, what if you stay calm? What if you don't say anything? You're just like, oh, we're good. You good? Okay. Or when the lady at Target is so rude to you and you could just feel your blood boiling and everything in you just wants to snap back at her, but you don't, and you choose to be kind instead. Trust me, moms, your kids will see it. They will. They're watching. They're going to remember those moments. And we all are going to blow it. We all are going to have times where look, that wasn't a good example. But the reality is if we can think that way, it's going to help us. If we can think of ourselves as, I'm going to train my kids to have good character. I'm going to train them with my words. I'm going to train them with my life. That will help us so much as we're trying to instill in our kids how important character is. You have no more powerful tool than your own example. So make sure it's a good one. Make sure it's a good one. We have to help shape our kids' view of character. They're not just going to get it naturally. They're not going to realistically do whatever they want. And then at some point when they're in 5th or 6th grade, just, I get it. I get what's right and wrong. They're going to need your help even now, all the way up, building that foundation to find out what is good, what is right. They're going to need our help. So you've got to see yourself kind of like their coach. And you've got to see your home as this is the training ground. This is it. This is where I'm going to teach my child what is good and what is right. You are in charge of that, and it's kind of awesome. You can affirm all the good. You can affirm the good things they do, their right behavior, and create an atmosphere where they are able to discern what is right and wrong. It's so important that we point out to them all the good things they do, and also it's important for us to point out the things that are not good, and maybe examples we see in others. I say this, I'm going to caveat this so many times, but I say this discreetly. Don't ever let anyone see you do it. It's not necessarily a good thing, but I have found one of the best tools that I have had as a mom is to let my girls see negative examples in other children and point it out. Again, discreetly, I'm not pointing fingers at the mom in Target, but a couple years ago we had Disneyland passes, and the thing I love about Disneyland is you are guaranteed to see at least 5 naughty children. They're gonna be, there's always somebody doing something like yelling at their dad or, just being disrespectful. It's all over the place. And I remember this one instance where there's a little girl that was clearly defying her parents, which escalated into a screaming fit. And it was a disobedience issue. And I remember pointing it out and being like, do you see what it looks like when you're naughty like that? When you're disobedient to your mom and dad and disrespectful? And the girl was making quite a scene. So I remember my little girl asking me, she's like, do I look like that when I disobey? I'm like, yeah, you look like that. And it was like this horrific moment. She goes, oh no, I don't want to look like that. Moms, great tool in your belt, because you can show them good examples and show them, hey, remember that? You don't want to look like that, do you? They get it when you help them get it. Use everything in your life as their character coach to show them what you mean. Shape it for them. Talk to them about it. Like when you're at the park, for example, and there's a kid that, pushes your kid down and steals their toy. There's the moment where you can train them, isn't it? You can watch all the tears and the frustration, but the second you get back in the van and it's just you and your kids, you can talk through it with them. How did that make you feel? What happened? Do you see why that was wrong? We don't treat people like that. I hope you wouldn't take anyone's toy. Live out what you say and take every chance you get to inform their view of good behavior. Show it to them in the world they live in their home. Help them get it. Frame it out for them. It's pretty great when you can paint a clear picture for your kids with both your words and your actions and also the examples they see all around them in their everyday life. So that foundation you're building gets strong. And as they grow, they can see, yep, I get why that's wrong. I've seen that before. Don't let opportunities go by that are wasted. Use those things to help. Because the reality is part of our jobs as a mom is to help train our kids to be able to discern what is right and what is wrong. And it might sound silly right now because our kids are playing in the sandbox and eating the sand. They're not quite there yet, and we don't maybe think that it's that important, but The day is coming, like Jenny said, it goes so fast. The day is coming that you'll be driving your fifth grader in your van and talking about their homework or their friends at school, or you'll be shuttling your junior higher to sports practice or asking your high school girl about their friends. It's so fast, and all those things are going to fly by. You don't want to miss the opportunity you have right now while they're little to really inform their view of what is good and right. You get to create that environment that shapes their character and helps inform that for them. You get to surround them with positive influences, with positive things, because the day is coming where they aren't going to need that much from you anymore in terms of surrounding them with good and bad. They're going to have to discern what is good and bad on their own without your help. So while you have the chance where they're little, don't miss it. Do everything you can to make that foundation strong. This might sound kind of scary or far off, like, oh, my kid's going to grow up and I'm not going to be able to help them choose what is good or best. They're going to have to do it themselves. They're going to have their own influences around them. But it's actually something that we can be excited about because we can look to that day and meet the challenge by getting them ready for it. We can really help prepare them by making sure that they have good influences around them and that they also know how to choose them for themselves. Let's write it this way for our next point. As moms, we've got to encourage good influences. Encourage good influences. The other day, one of my daughters was talking to me, and she used this expression that I forget what it was, but it was totally unlike her and kind of snarky, teenage kind of expression. And I asked her, I was like, where'd you hear that? And she got it off some TV show that she was watching. She's not even a tween technically yet, but I'm like, oh, we're already there. She's watching TV shows and seeing people she thinks are cool and trying to act like them. So we talked about it a little bit, and even just the way that my daughters are able to mimic and remember and emulate. We're driving in the car, and my kids are singing all the songs for the Christmas musical. I've heard them just as much as they have, against my wishes, but I can't sing every word like they can. My younger daughter is right now learning the 50 states. Do you guys remember the 50 Nifty United States song? I cannot sing that song. I can't sing along with it because it's just hard for me, and I know the 50 states. My daughters just rattle it off. They got it. Their ability to take in, absorb, and remember, and then spit it back is remarkable. I wish that mine was that remarkable, but it's not. Theirs, however, is. They are very keenly aware of the influences that are around them, which means, moms, we've got to really be careful what we're allowing them to be influenced by, whether it be on TV or YouTube or kids' YouTube. Kids' YouTube, by the way, my daughter was watching that yesterday morning, and sure enough, this little girl on some self-made video was calling her dad an idiot. I'm like, okay, we're done with that. Turn it off. We have to be very careful with what our kids are being influenced by. We've got to watch for it because they are shaped by it. They are taking it all in. And that means, honestly, for us as well. What they're going to hear in the background of the shows that we watch or the music that we listen to. They're going to learn those words and those concepts just as well. We've got to remember to see our home. That's the training ground. We want to inform their view of good character. We want to protect that. Doesn't mean we want to put our kids in a box and never let them watch YouTube. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying we've got to be very aware that what is around them is going to inform them. So let's help it be a good influence. And when it comes down to good influences in our kids' lives, I think second only to our own influence, the most powerful influence they are ever going to have is going to be their friends, right? We all know that their friends are going to influence them more than anyone because who you spend time with, that's who you act like. I see it in my own life. There's mannerisms and things that I say that remind me of my friends because I spend so much time with them. What we are working so hard to build and create and shape in our kids could be just like this Lego thing that we just come and wipe the legs out from underneath it. If we're trying to build good character in our kids and then we don't care what influences them or what friends they have, it's the same thing as just knocking out the foundation because we know that bad company corrupts good morals. It does. Who they hang out with is going to corrupt all those things you're trying to build. So you want to encourage them to have good influences and good friends that are going to help point them in the direction of good character. Right now they're little, right? They're not asking you for play dates, probably. They're asking you for fruit snacks. That's a great space to be in. But the day is coming where they're going to ask to hang out with friends and they're going to have influences on them. And we need to be able to navigate that in a very practical way. We can help our kids understand how important it is to have good friendships, good, strong character-building friendships, by getting them together with other kids their age. Typically, I have found that if you have a play date with someone who thinks the same way that you do about character, you're probably going to have the same kind of values, and maybe you can help your kids learn at the same time. And realistically, there's no better tool to teach our kids than when they're with other kids. We can tell them all day long to share and be kind, but when someone rips the baby doll away from them, there's the moment that we can teach them in real life. Share, be kind. Those lessons are going to sink in, and you can help them have those moments and learn how to interact with other people, even their little friends, even starting now. You can show them how to make their own friends. One of my daughters was, she was so shy. Her name's Allie, and so her nickname was Alley Cat because she would just kind of hide. And, we'd peel her off our legs, even for kindergarten. It was just this painful process. And at first, I just thought, well, she's introverted, she's shy, she'll get there, whatever. And then I started watching her over the years. She didn't know how to make friends, and she felt lonely and sad. And it dawned on me, I got to help her. I've got to help her learn how to make friends because she can't do it by herself. And so we started arranging play dates for her with other girls. And over the years, I saw tremendous payoff in that because she learned how to interact with other kids. She learned how to be kind. She learned how to be a friend. And now she no longer needs my help making friends, and she's fine. But she needed help in the beginning because she didn't know how. And I think some of us assume that our kids are just going to get there, but really, moms, we have kind of a cool opportunity. You get to help your kids make their first friends. You get to arrange play dates and help them interact with other kids their age, meet at the sandbox, go to each other's houses, whatever it is. You can show them how important it is to have good friends. And honestly, this is kind of great. There's like a dual-edged side here because not only are you helping your kids interact with other people, but you get to invest in your mom friendships. I think this is the best part. I love having friends that are moms, my fellow mom friends. This is going to sound completely ridiculous, but here it goes. I have a group of friends, and we call ourselves the Chuggy Crew. Have you ever heard of the word chuggy? Me neither. So it's pretty funny. My friend Amanda, whose husband is the pastor of the college group, one of the college girls came up to her and said, you and all your friends are kind of chuggy. And none of us had ever heard that word before. And apparently it means you think you're cool, but you're not. And so we just started laughing. We're like, that makes sense. So we've titled our text thread, the Chuggy Crew. And my Chuggy Crew meets every single week at the park. And we have snacks. It's pretty elaborate, I'm not going to lie. There's tablecloths, there's coffee and the big Stanley thing. And we talk and chat, and our kids play, and everybody wins. We all leave feeling encouraged, and I look forward to this time because I have camaraderie with these friends, and my kids get to play, and it's a good thing all around. And it's kind of sweet because it, again, reinforces what I'm trying to teach my kids. Even mom, living by example, even mom values good friends. My friends help me do what is good and right. Mommy has good friends. I want you to have good friends to help you do what is good and right. You want to give your kids so much encouragement. Point out the good things they do. Point it out in their friends. Point it out everywhere you can. Affirm it. Praise it. Build this environment where they see being good, doing what is right is a good thing. We've got to encourage them and keep encouraging them. Be our kids' cheerleaders, so to speak. But also, we can't forget that there are going to be times when we have to not just be the cheerleader, but also the coach. We've got to redirect them sometimes when they're doing something that's not that good so that they don't make the mistake of thinking they can do whatever they want, but they have to have consequences when things are wrong sometimes. That's much harder to do, but let's write it this way for our last point. We need to enforce appropriate consequences. Enforce appropriate consequences. It's so much easier to be a cheerleader than a coach, let's be honest, but the reality is it's healthy for our kids to realize that their actions have consequences. They really will reap what they sow in some sense. And in a lot of ways, we're already doing this, even if we have little kids that are toddlers. If your toddler gets to the top of the slide, like my youngest daughter likes to do, and then stand there, what are you going to do? You're going to run and tell them, sit down. That is going to hurt you. That is going to cause you pain if you try to go down the slide on your feet. We are already teaching them your actions have consequences in little ways like that. Do the same thing with their character. Show them that, sometimes if you make a bad moral decision, it's going to cause you pain. That's why there are consequences when you hit your brother or push them down or whatever it is. We've got to look at the things that they do, and instead of just ignoring it and saying, they're two, take the time to really call it out and help them see that it's not good. Think of it this way. What if you have two kids? And I realize this is a large age gap, but what if you have a 2-year-old and a 14-year-old? What if your 2-year-old pushes down, his friend and then hits him in the face? And you say, well, he's 2, whatever. And you leave it alone. But then you find out later that your 14-year-old went to Starbucks that day and she ordered, her pumpkin spice latte. And she waited and she never got it. And then 15 minutes went by and she went up and asked the barista, hey, where's my drink? And he said, I'm so sorry, I forgot it. And she just said, okay, and then slaps him in the face. How are you going to respond to your daughter doing that? Probably going to be some consequences, right? But the reality is they both did the same thing. If you don't want your little ones to grow up to be teenagers that slap people in the face, then don't let them slap people in the face when they're 2. It might sound kind of nonsensical, but teach your kids, even young, to do what is good and what is right and keep enforcing that. Keep building on that all the way up. And so when they are 14, hopefully, they won't slap the barista in the face. It's hard, but we've got to teach our kids that their actions really do have consequences. And we've got to be willing to enforce appropriate discipline for that. I remember my mom telling me all the time, this hurts me more than it hurts you. And I remember firing back saying, okay, sure, Mom. But it's true, isn't it? None of us loves to discipline our kids. None of us loves to see them cry or to take something they love away. But we have to remember that we've got to love them enough to do the hard thing, to give them consequences for what they do that is not good and right, so that they will want to not do that anymore, but they will want to do what is good. It's for their benefit to help train them to do what is good. And parenting would be so much easier if our kids never did anything wrong, or if we could just ignore it all the time. But the reality is we know better. There's going to be times that they need correction because at the end of the day, we know, as much as we would like to admit or think otherwise, our kids are not perfect. They never have been, they never will be, and maybe deep down the reason why we know they're not perfect, besides the fact that we live with them and we see them all the time, is because deep down we know that we're not perfect. We never have been, we never will be. There's only one who's perfect, and it's not your kids, and it's not you, it's only God. Only God is the perfect one who is perfectly morally just and good all the time. His moral perfection is so far above us that it's completely unattainable for any of us. He never does what is wrong. He always does what is right. And the thing that is so hard is that God says that anyone who wants to be with him must also be morally perfect, which is kind of a bummer, isn't it? Because none of us are. Because we all are imperfect, we all make mistakes, we all blow it. So if we can't be morally perfect like God, and yet that's what he demands, what do we need? We need his solution. And this is what I love about God and his kindness, because he is good. He gives us a solution that is so great. He's justified us because he took all of the wrong things, all the imperfect things, all of the screaming fits and the disobedience and all the bad stuff we've ever done, and he paid for it. He took our consequences on himself and wiped it away. He took it in our place, making it so that those who put their trust in him can be right with him, can be with him. That's pretty remarkable. I think sometimes it's funny because when I discipline my girls, they'll tell me like, it's not fair. And I laugh because I love it when they say that to me because I'm like, yes, it's not fair. That's exactly right. What is fair is that we shouldn't have anything good. We do deserve punishment, but God doesn't give us what we deserve. He is kind to us. That is amazing. He's perfectly just in the way that he demands perfection from us, and he's also perfectly just in the way that he deals with us. I think sometimes people have this wrong understanding. We're like, well, if God loves me, nothing hard should ever happen. Everything should be fine. But that's not true. Because the reality is, like we know, what we reap, we are going to sow. We're still going to have consequences for our actions. If we stand on the slide and try to go down, we're probably going to hurt. It's true that we have to face some consequences, and God is just in allowing it. And he's just in not giving us what we do deserve as well. I think pretending to be perfect is something that maybe moms naturally struggle with. Maybe pretending to be perfect is something that's going to exasperate our kids as well. Maybe we push our kids so hard to be perfect, or to get the good grades, or all these extracurricular things, or we push them to be something that we want them to be, and we forget that the bigger issue, what we should be focusing on, is good character. We don't want them to be perfect morally. We know they can't. We want them to obey. We want them to value what we're trying to teach them. Parenting is not for the faint of heart, is it? It's hard. It is hard to be consistent with our kids. It's hard to model in front of them what we want them to become. It's hard to give them consequences when we would rather not. It's hard, but we know that deep down we have to keep at it, and we can't give up because it's worth it. Because character actually really does count. It does. And we want to be a group of women, I'm sure, that can look back in 20 years and say, you know what, I'm so glad I didn't give up. I'm so glad that I kept pushing them to do what is good and right. And you didn't wait too late to start, because even a child can be known by what he does if it's good and right. I am rooting for you because I am literally rowing this boat with you, and I hope that collectively one day we'll look back and be so glad we didn't give up and raise up this next generation to be people of character. Thank you for letting me join you, and I hope you guys have great discussions.